Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. And by the way, I want to apologize in advance for my uh, mediocre audio quality today. We're still having some issues with the microphone, but it doesn't matter. We're back after a little break, and as per usual, after these breaks, we just get the most news we've ever had this entire year, and a bunch of crazy stuff happened. But Will, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Cam, and I must say I'm feeling good about this USA men's basketball team for the
Yes.
Olympics this year. They have secured a spot in the quarterfinals after their wins against Serbia and South Sudan over the last several days. So ultimately, to me, it just seems like this team, and I feel like this was really to be expected. This team was being compared to the Dream Team in ways that I don't think any other U.S. team since the Dream Team has. So I just think, I mean, I know they had a couple of their exhibition games that were close and that they only won
Yeah.
by 1 and 4 points, but these in the official Olympic Games, these first two wins they've had have been pretty dominant overall. So I just think at the end of the day, this team is too talented not to win gold. So I am doing great, Cam, because I feel like the USA basketball team is winning gold this year. So
I
I'm doing
mean,
great. How about
with
you?
like you
Yeah.
said, I'm doing great, but with such a stacked roster, how do you not get cold when you have the best players in the NBA on your starting roster? It's just a crazy lineup, and I was expecting them to win, and it's just so fun to watch them play.
Kevin Durant, like, just for any casual basketball fans or people who haven't been following this year's Olympic team as much, this is why this team is so deep and so scary. Kevin Durant is coming off the bench. That's all that
Yeah,
needs to be said.
yeah, and I mean, Hall of Famer Kevin Durant is on the is starting games sitting on the bench. So yeah, I think that can kind of give you an idea of how nasty the Team USA basketball team is. But today, I've been looking forward to this episode for a while, and like I said, we took a little break in midsummer. I feel like we kind of usually do that during the summer. Um, but we have two videos that we filmed in California. One of them is almost like a short film, which is still being edited as we speak, because I think it's going to be the best thing we've ever posted. I'm serious about that. Will has seen some of it, but Will has not seen the final version, which I think is very impressive, and I'm glad we were able to do that while visiting California. That was great. But now we're back at our own. Well, you were always at your house, but I'm back here, and we're back for this episode, and we have so much stuff to cover. It's ridiculous. Three things to cover, but the three things that we have to cover are just ridiculous. And oh my goodness, I think we need to just start with the thing that's been going on for the longest, and Cobra Kai season 6 part 1. Well, you'd consider Cobra Kai to be one of your favorite shows of all time, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So please, give the audience of the Everything Podcast your thoughts on season 6, part 1 of Cobra Kai.
So I love this show. I mean, I've loved this show pretty much ever since I laid eyes on it. I think it's a total karate soap opera, and yet I
Yeah.
just feel it's done so well. And I think the show, even has some preposterous elements like a
For sure.
karate school fight, and yet they're able to make you believe it despite it being preposterous because it's done so well. And then after all that they had done for me and for all of their fans over the first 4 seasons, season 5, in my opinion, I thought it was their best season. I thought they took it to
I
another
agree.
level. Terry Silver in particular, led by what I thought was just a captivating performance
Can't even believe it.
Thomas Ian Griffith, Thomas Ian Griffith, who had stopped acting and gone into writing. I mean, who the hell was thinking about that
Yeah.
guy? He came back, and I thought just gave an utterly captivating performance. So I loved season 5, and I thought it was their best season. Now, we still have 2 parts left in season 6, but so far, season 6 has definitely been my least favorite season
Yep.
of the show. And one of my reasons why is in terms of some of the preposterous elements of the show in the past, I thought they were stretching it this season with the fact that, and I want to issue a spoiler alert for everybody here because I'm going to
For
go
the whole episode,
spoilers,
everything is gonna have spoilers
but
that we talk about.
folks, Cobra Kai fans, we literally had John Kreese go from he escapes from prison. He goes from America to South Korea to America to Barcelona, Spain, and he's not back in prison. I like that. That to me is stretching it right there. So that is number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I feel like they tied up so many storylines at the end of season 5. I feel like Daniel and Johnny finally made up. I feel like Robbie and Miguel made up. I feel like Sam and Tori made up. I feel like, they defeated Terry Silver. Now everybody's on the same page. I feel like there were so many loose threads that were tied up in season 5 that this season when Daniel and Johnny are having their conflict. We got Dimitri and Hawk having their conflict. This season, to me, the conflict feels more forced and less natural and almost just kind of conflict for the sake of conflict and to have a storyline for the show. In past seasons, I just enjoyed the character rivalries so much more. But this season, I'm just like, wait, these characters are having rivalries again? I thought they had made growth. I thought Daniel and Johnny had made steps forward, and yet I feel like they're going back to rivalries that they had took all this time to mend. And then another issue that I had is I thought there were certain characters who just had really unlikable qualities. One thing that he who must not be named here on this podcast mentioned to me was that Daniel LaRusso beat Terry Silver with Terry Silver's own Quicksilver method, therefore opening up to non-Miyagi-Do styles of karate in ways that he never had before. And yet, as he who must not be named mentioned, Daniel suddenly just seems to be all back to we're only doing Miyagi-Do now that we're under the Miyagi-Do name, and Eagle Fang, like Johnny's karate, like that can't be done anymore. That to me feels like a total violation of the growth that Daniel's character has made and the acceptance he has of Johnny's style of karate in ways he didn't in the past. So I feel like the fact that he would just suddenly just revert back to how he was before, that feels insulting to me to the growth that Daniel's character had made. And then, even characters like Johnny and Chosen and Mike Barnes, I feel like they almost regressed this season. I didn't find Chosen as likable as last season. I didn't find Mike Barnes as likable as last season. Johnny, to me, season 5 to me felt like a much more mature Johnny than what I saw this season. And then there were certain episodes to me where I just thought the pacing was really fast. I just felt like there was, so much going on, and, it was just going, from just, thing to thing to thing. So, I've loved, the pacing for the other Cobra Kai seasons. This season, not so much. I thought it was too fast at times. So far for me, this has been my least favorite Cobra Kai season because I just don't feel like they have nearly as many compelling stories to tell, as they did in the past, because I think they, tied up so many storylines last season. I don't think I don't think you can get more menacing than Terry Silver. I just don't think John Kreese, carries the same level of menace that Terry Silver has. And there were certain characters I feel like kind of regressed and just weren't as likable this season. So far for me, look, I get it, with John Kreese escaping from prison, I feel like they kind of, had to do this season because you can't just, leave, have a cliffhanger and leave fans hanging like that. But so far, this has been my least favorite season because I just don't feel like they have the same compelling storylines as they did in seasons past.
Yeah, so I agree with you. This is probably one of the weaker seasons of Cobra Kai. I still think season 4 is worse. I did not like that season. Um, but this hasn't ended, and my opinion could be swayed either way. And that is something that is kind of helping me right now, because I'm not looking totally negatively on this season, really, yet, because 15 episodes, and the first 5, I didn't think they were particularly bad episodes. I thought they were just pretty good. Unnecessary, for sure. I think they could have they could have definitely found a way to wrap up everything in season 5. Unnecessary, kind of like an epilogue. Um, but with the 15 episodes, it allows them to start slow and just build up, build up, build up, which is what it seems like they're kind of doing. So I am at this point okay with the slow start because I see potential for there to be uh, I see it getting better in the future, which is something that's keeping my hopes up, and it allows me to not be completely disappointed by part 1 here. And when you're saying that characters completely regressed, yes, I agree, and I think that's kind of Netflix's fault. They should have just allowed the show to end at season 5, and they should have not done that Kreese escaping prison thing, and maybe they could have killed him off in the jail. They could have actually killed him in the finale. That would have been a lot easier way to end the show. But instead, we had to deal with Kreese seemingly teleporting around the world, which is crazy, bouncing here and there, and it's just unrealistic. But you've always kind of had to subvert your expectations for the show, just because. I mean, this show just has you gotta suspend your belief for this show. That's just how it's always been. But that's kind of ridiculous. And another thing I want to touch on is this is the most insufferable Daniel LaRusso has ever been. Every word that comes out of his mouth annoys me this season. He, like you said, he he was able to not do Miyagi-Do karate, and he progressed as a character, and he was able to open himself up to use other styles and become more open-minded in general. But no, not anymore. He just loves Mr. Miyagi, even after Mr. Miyagi was proven to not always have been a good guy. Which, if they had just continued Daniel on his storyline, they wouldn't have had to make Mr. Miyagi this crazy boxer guy in his past, and they wouldn't have had to do that. Daniel would have just naturally progressed to be more open-minded about different styles of karate, and he just talks about Mr. Miyagi all the time, and it's just an excuse to not agree with Johnny. No, Mr. Miyagi wouldn't do this. No, no, you can't do that. Mr. Miyagi wouldn't do that, and I can't stand it. That is one thing I could not stand watching this show, this season, and I think the MVP, and I actually do think, and I guess I could disagree with you here, Will. I think Johnny has actually continued his character growth as in this season, which I particularly want to point out in the scene where Daniel LaRusso literally punches Johnny in the face. In previous seasons, it wouldn't have just been one punch thrown. It would have been a bigger thing than it was. But no, Johnny Lawrence handled that situation so well, and I kind of wish he did beat up Daniel LaRusso, because at that point I was just fed up with him, and I couldn't take any more Daniel LaRusso. Um, but he handled it well, and it worked, and I can't wait to, I really hope, and yeah, it would be bad for their character arcs, I really hope Daniel and Johnny fight one more time, and we can just see Daniel get beaten up, because I cannot stand him right now. He is making me very mad. And like I said earlier, still time to progress. We have 10 more episodes left. Basically, we have a whole season of Cobra Kai technically left, and there's still time to improve things. And as things go on, it'll change. So I'm leaving out hope for that. But for now, an okay season. It has like a 7.5 out of 10 for this season so far. definitely not the worst Cobra Kai we've seen, but not the best, and it's kind of disappointing. But we have the future to look forward to. But you know what else we have to talk about, Will?
What's that?
We need to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So this movie I've been excited for a while, and immediately after coming out of the theater, I was so disappointed, and
Hmm.
I originally gave it 2 out of 5 stars. And then I thought about it, and I think recency bias continues to affect me in the way that I didn't want to be affected by recency bias so much. I actually disliked. I tried to make myself not like the movie or something like that. I don't know. But upon thinking about it and kind of realizing my expectations were not higher than what happened, but just different, I thought it was going to be a different movie. And that was no my fault, really. Um, but after rewatching it and after thinking about it for a while, I think, yeah, it's definitely a really good Marvel movie, a really solid Marvel movie. Not the best Deadpool movie for sure, but it's really what Marvel needs right now. It's getting people's interest back. It will probably end up making $1 billion in the box office, and as Marvel's one movie of the year, perfect. I don't think I could have asked for anything more, really. And you, Will, are not a traditional fan of the Fox X-Men or the Deadpool movies. So, but you're a fan of the MCU, obviously. But
Yeah.
as someone like that, what were your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, so this was really my first journey into this whole 20th Century Fox corner of the Marvel world, and kind of where I've gotten to with Marvel is and I do think they did a good job making it accessible to people who hadn't seen you know uh some of the other movies where these characters appeared in. But in the past, like for Spider-Man No Way Home, I was like, okay, I'll go back and watch the other Spider-Man movies. When I heard that Daredevil was coming into the MCU, I was like, okay, I'll go back and watch this. But kind of, where I've gotten to is I just feel like there's so much, and I do know that they're doing things to change this, and I appreciate that. But I just feel like it's gotten to a point where there's so much homework with Marvel to where, oh, here's a new Deadpool movie, so we got two of those along with all these, X-Men movies and Logan that Wolverine was in. So, when I decided going into this movie is I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna fall into this, Marvel homework, trap every single time. And I'm just gonna go and watch this movie and, see how it is on its own, as kind of a stand alone thing. And I will say this, it's not the type of, Marvel movie I would go to see every day. It's not the type of comedy with all the swearing and stuff and fourth wall breaking and everything that they do. It's not necessarily the type of Marvel movie that I would, go and see every day, or the type of comedy that I would necessarily gravitate to. But I will say this, I did like it better than I thought I would. I did find it, fun to see all the different 20th Century Fox and MCU characters who made cameos in the film. That I thought was fun. And like I was also thinking, like for all of my issues with like like the Ant-Mans and how I didn't think the comedy was strong in those films, this film I felt like was like a better version of that. Like
Yeah,
I feel like this was a better
that's a really
effort.
good comparison.
I feel like this was a better effort of what Ant-Man tried to do. So it's not the type of Marvel movie I would go to see every day. Not the comedy that I gravitate toward per se. Not a Marvel movie I'll keep coming back to. But I did like it better than I thought I would, and I think it was definitely a better Marvel effort than what they did with the Ant-Man films, particularly the last one, which is one of the lowest grossing MCU movies of all time.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just don't think there was a lot of interest for Quantumania, um, and I think one thing that really helped this Deadpool movie was the marketing. I mean, even if you're like not into Marvel, I guarantee you saw Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman doing some sort of promotion for this movie somewhere. They were everywhere. They
Oh
hosted
yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel together. They went on podcasts. They did videos with random TikTokers to get them more, I don't know, famous, or more people looking at this movie, and I think that really helped them. I mean, a TV spot every day, 2 weeks before the movie came out, is guaranteed to boost the amount of people going to see this movie. And I think it just gained so much interest and so much hype from all the press and promotion that they've been doing, that they did for this movie, really helped them. And this movie, I thought was very funny. I just want to talk about that for a little bit. I thought the most unexpected thing that happened in this movie, Chris Evans' Human Torch, I did not. I had expectations for this movie. Not expecting that. Not expecting any Fantastic Four. Never mind Chris Evans, the fake out Captain America. That was crazy, and that was hilarious. And I was just shocked by that. And I think the fourth wall breaking in this movie, um, I think it worked. I think Deadpool is one of the few movies where fourth wall breaking really works, because it's always been a part of this character, and it's not overused. I think it's used just enough to make every time it happens funny. And I also want to talk about Hugh Jackman's performance in this movie. I thought he was fantastic. I wish they showed us a flashback. I feel like that would have given his character a lot more weight, because we hear about how he let down his X-Men, all his X-Men, but we don't see it, and I think it would have made us feel, it would make us gravitate more towards his Wolverine a little more, but obviously that'd be Endgame type of budget needed to get all those X-Men, shoot all that, and that'd be just crazy, ridiculous. But what they did, I think, was good enough. And I thought Cassandra Nova, yeah, it was kind of a forgettable villain for sure. And I was kind of confused by her, or by what they did with her, because she ended up on their side, kind of, and then they kind of killed her. If I
Right.
don't know if you'll recall,
Yeah.
they made a deal with her. They talked to her.
Yeah.
She let him go, and it all worked out. And then she flung him away. And then she did the whenever that was the time thing. And then they just killed her. They could have
Yeah.
if anything, they should have killed whatever his name, the guy from Succession,
The
Paradox. They should have killed
TVA
Paradox.
guy.
Yeah, they should have killed him. He was like the real bad guy in this movie.
Oh, he
It's
was
all his
awesome.
fault. Yeah, although his performance was hilarious.
Yeah.
Especially when you thought Deadpool and Wolverine were supposed to be dead, and they just emerge out of the fire. That was just hilarious. His reaction was very funny. Um, I thought a lot of the jokes were funny. Particularly the guy at the TVA who was in love with Deadpool and Wolverine throughout the entire movie. That has made me laugh uh, quite a bit. I thought that was very funny. And the Happy Hogan cameo. Wow! That was also very unexpected. Um, that might have been my favorite joke in the movie, at least top five. When he's talking to Happy Hogan, he's like, "Is the guy here?" No, he doesn't do that anymore. What cameos? That was funny. That made me laugh. I really enjoyed that. And in Happy's office, if you noticed, there's a picture of Tony Stark, and next to him
Yeah.
should be Peter Parker. But no. Peter Parker's blocked out. You know why? Everyone forgets about Peter Parker. Continuity. Look at that. Everything still connects. We have a running cinematic universe still. Look at that. I appreciated that. And a small detail, but I feel like if that same thing happened in, I don't know, the Marvels, they probably wouldn't go through the effort to do that. They wouldn't do that. They're doing little things here, and I can really appreciate that. Opening fight scene, whew, that was crazy. That was awesome. Dancing to Bye 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 by NSYNC. Wow! Very funny. I thought Sean Levy did a great job directing this movie. Did you see Free Guy, Will?
That one I haven't seen.
You saw Adam Project, though, right?
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
Did you like that though?
I did, yes.
Yeah,
I thought it was a fun film.
for sure. And yeah, Sean Levy did that. He's worked with Ryan Reynolds in the past. He's actually done quite a few movies. If you look at his IMDb, he's
Yeah,
worked on
and he's part of the Stranger Things team
yeah,
too. I
and
know he's
Stranger
done
Things.
work there. I mean, he's really built out a really successful career for himself so far.
I agree. I didn't know how much he's actually done in his career. He has Stranger Things, and more recently he has obviously Free Guy, Adam Project, Deadpool, Stranger Things, all that. But if you go back in his career, he directed all the Night at the Museum movies, which granted aren't these big like critically acclaimed movies, but they're it's a trilogy of movies, and you gotta have a lot of money. You gotta make a lot of money. You gotta be at least decent movies to get yourself a trilogy, right? And I mean, he did that. I mean, I've seen the first one. I think it's a good movie, but those are big movies. I had no clue he directed that. Um, he also directed Real Steel, which stars Hugh Jackman. So he's also worked with Hugh Jackman in the past, and that's also a very popular movie. I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people have seen it, and it's a very highly regarded movie. People really like it, and I just had no clue that was him. And then go back further, get the Pink Panther random Steve Martin movie in there. I don't think it's very well received critically, but a very famous movie for sure. Cheaper by the Dozen, another Steve Martin movie, very popular for sure. And that just really surprised me. I just I, I had no clue Sean Levy was this kind of I don't want to say legendary director, but he's directed a lot of pretty famous movies, and I just didn't know that. So yeah, he did a good job with this for sure. And I thought all the fight scenes were really good, and yeah, it stuck true to what Deadpool usually does. And I was very happy with this movie upon rewatching it. I thought it was really good. I thought the
And you saw it
performances were
again
great.
yesterday, right?
Yes, I did.
Awesome.
And yeah, what can I say? It second watch, kind of readjusting what I had in my mind. I really liked it. So, Will, do you think releasing one movie and this being the one movie is the right move for Marvel right now?
100%. Because, like, I'll be honest, like the superhero fatigue that people have talked about, I've even started feeling it myself from the standpoint of how many times can we just do the same thing over and over and over again until the well runs dry. But I think Bob Iger came out and said, they were gonna do like, no more than like 2 to 3 movies a year. Now I do find it interesting. I do believe they have Captain America, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and Blade all on the calendar next year, which is interesting to me because that's not
Those
what
come out close to each other too.
yeah, because that's not in line with what Bob Iger said the new plan would be, with what I believe he said was just like 2 to 3 movies per year. So I wonder if next year's movie release dates will be shuffled around. But I definitely I think just releasing one is great. I think that's the perfect way to help with the superhero fatigue. I have no problem with that at all. Totally on board with it. And also, let me just quickly say this. A funny little story here. So our local Napa movie theater, me and my friend James, who was a guest on our podcast a few months back, we've seen many Marvel movies together over these past couple years after we met in high school, and sometimes we've gone with other people, but this time it was just us. But this was the first R-rated Marvel movie that we had gone to see together, and just the first R-rated movie we had gone to see at our local Napa theater. And a great learning experience for us was the fact that we were just completely blind to the fact that our Napa theater would tell us, oh, you guys look kind of young. You're going to have IDs to prove that you're 17 before you can go and watch this film. So we had to go back with James's dad 2 days later. So I would just like to say, Napa Theater. I don't hold anything against you. For for this. You're just doing your job. That's the rules, and the people who were working there were following them. But I would just like to say to my local Napa movie theater, lesson learned. Lesson learned there.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
anyway, to answer your original question, I think one per year is great. It sounds like they're going to lead more toward 2 to 3 per year from now on. But if they have more years where it's just one movie release, I think that is fantastic. So I'm all on board for it. How about you, Cam?
I'm fine with it. One thing I will say about the upcoming Marvel movies is that I think they've all been worked on for quite a while, and it just so happens that they're gonna be finished around the same time. Hopefully that's actually what's happening. But let me read you the dates here.
Let's do it.
Captain America: Brave New World, February 14th, 2025. All right, so February.
Yep. By the way,
Thunderbolts.
I look forward to talking about the trailer for that movie on
Yes,
one of
for
our
sure.
on one of our future episodes because I thought that looked very, very promising.
Same here, yeah. And then May 2nd, which I mean, it is a few months, but that's pretty close to each other. I mean, that's crazy, unexpected. And then after May, July 25th, 2025, you have Fantastic Four. Those are three movies that I am looking forward to in a very short amount of time. I think it'll work out because these movies have been worked on for a while and been hyped up quite a bit by Marvel, and I think it'll work out because the concepts here are very good. But I'm hesitant. But on that note, we can quickly talk about Robert Downey Jr. What the heck? How is he back? What? That was the most unexpected thing
Shocker.
in recent memory. Why is he back in the MCU? Whose idea was that? I mean, I'm happy with it. We love RDJ here on the Everything Podcast, but it's a decision that I didn't expect them to make ever. you know, Will, I mean, you're a huge RDJ fan, right? How do you feel about this?
Shocked. Absolutely, positively shocked. I would just like to start by saying Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige. I would like to say the panel that they had at San Diego Comic-Con with RDJ's reveal and the crowd's reaction to it. I thought that was fantastic. That to me is exactly what something like a San Diego Comic-Con should be. So I would just like to start by saying the panel with his reveal as Doctor Doom, I thought that was fantastic. I had so much fun watching that. That being said, again, just shocked by this. I saw somebody. I saw this as a title to a video on YouTube, and I totally agree with this point. I think this is both a great and desperate move at the same time. Let me start with the positive before I go to the negative. The positive, Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor. They do have the multiverse, which they've established. And I've seen, some things that have put it out, if he's, like wearing a mask for the whole time, you might not even see his face, and you might never have a moment of being like, wait, isn't that the guy who plays Tony Stark? So like, I think it's a great move from the standpoint of Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor, and I'm sure he'll do a good job in the role. But where the desperate comes in for me is this. Superhero fatigue has been talked about so much recently.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying it kind of looks. I just think a case could be made that it looks this way. What is more desperate than saying, all right, we're really struggling right now. Jonathan Majors, we lost our director for the Kang Dynasty. So, superhero fatigue, people are giving up on us over here at Marvel. So, to fix our problems, instead of, doing something new, we're just going to go back to the Russo brothers and we're going to go back to Robert Downey Jr. because That's what worked in the past, and that's what's going to work now. So I think it's a great move from the standpoint of the Russo brothers, I think, are amazing at directing superhero movies. And I think Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor, and I'm certain he'll do well in the role. But I think it looks desperate from the standpoint of, like, I think this is them admitting that they've been struggling lately and they're going to go back to what worked in the past because they can't come up with anything new that's working now. So I think it's great and desperate at the same time.
I agree with you, Will. That being said, I'm super excited to see RDJ
Of course.
back. And as we get more information, I'm super excited to break it down here on the podcast. But unexpected news for sure. And RDJ is such a good actor; he'll pull it off. And I think we'll start to. I've heard we'll see him in an end credit scene, probably in Fantastic Four, for the first time. That's where we'll get introduced to him, which great. Um, I think he'll do a good job. I trust Kevin Feige a lot. I think he's really smart and will handle this very well. But yeah, for now, I'm excited. I'm curious. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Well, thanks for joining me as always. And yeah, crazy episode. Thank you all for watching.